Now we have to go to Russia and hopefully President Putin will agree to that also. But Ukraine has agreed to it, and hopefully Russia will agree to it. We're going to meet with them later on today and tomorrow.
Here now is the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, John Herbst. Welcome back, Ambassador Herbst. Thoughts on the announcement today and next steps here?
Well, I think we should congratulate President Trump and his team for getting this agreement. Although, frankly, it wasn't too hard to get the Ukrainians to agree because they do want peace. And it's very important that the Trump team reverse their bad decision to pause military support to Ukraine and military intelligence to Ukraine. Ukraine needs to be able to defend itself from ongoing Russian aggression as the Trump team seeks to negotiate an end to this war.
So the intelligence part of it, how important is that? Say, like, for example, this huge drone strike on Moscow, but that's one example just because it came in today. But Ukraine strikes inside of Russia. Their ability to know where to hit, especially if it's along the border, and their ability to defend themselves if they don't have the intelligence.
I actually think Ukraine's extraordinary success with drones against, for example, oil installations well far from Ukraine has not been based upon American intelligence. Those sites are well known, and Ukraine has the ability to hit them.
Okay.
But where military intelligence is important is as Russian forces are moving on the battlefield. So the decision by the Trump team to block that for over a week made it possible for Russia to make greater gains in the Kursk Oblast, where Ukraine has...
Well, Ukraine has moved in there, for people who don't follow the map.
That's correct.
Right? So then that, to me, you're talking now about a potential deal or ceasefire, at least for 30 days.
Right.
You have movements like that, theoretically, would give Ukraine some leverage, right, over Russia in negotiations.
Correct. Correct. And we should want that because, again, Moscow's the aggressor. Moscow is the country which calls the United States its principal adversary. Moscow is the country which conducts cyber operations against the United States. We should want Ukraine to do well in this negotiation.
Okay, so today what happened over in Saudi Arabia is that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and the National Security Advisors, Mike Waltz, on the Trump team, they came out. That's how we found out that they had this deal with Ukraine. So now we want to know what Russia's going to do. Let me play a quick clip from Rubio, and then we'll come back and talk about that. This is Secretary of State earlier today.
We're going to take the offer to them. We're going to tell them this is what's on the table. Ukraine is ready to stop shooting and start talking. And now it'll be up to them to say yes or no. I hope they're going to say yes, and if they do, then I think we made great progress. If they say no, then we'll unfortunately know what the impediment is to peace here.
What do you expect, Ambassador, when they take that offer to Russia?
Putin does not want a ceasefire. He wants to take more Ukrainian territory. He will try and sweet-talk the Special Envoy Witkoff into accepting some changes. And if it's the deal as put down, which is very much in American interest, there will be no changes. And we'll find out if Putin is willing to provoke Trump. But he definitely does not want to end the shooting because he's made clear he wants Ukraine to withdraw from the 4 oblasts of Ukraine, which Russia has quote unquote annexed and which Ukraine controls part of.
Now, you mentioned that's interesting, his relationship, or alluded to his relationship with Trump. Does that mean that, you know, I think we should always be looking at, you have the experience here, skeptically at anything Vladimir Putin does, but like you say he does accept, quote unquote, or we get a headline that he accepts the ceasefire. That's 30 days theoretically. Then we got to look for what's next or why he might be saying that, right?
Well, if he does that, then I suspect he'll try and probe some Ukrainian weak spots during the ceasefire period,
right,
to see if he can make some gains on the battlefield, to see if the Americans are serious, the United States is serious about imposing a cost on those who break the ceasefire.
What kind of position has Trump put the Ukrainians in going into this? So he gets the 30 days, but, you know, the criticism of the Trump administration, as you know, is that they'd given so much away, you know, maybe rhetorically to Putin in the time leading up to this, that it makes something more serious, especially a deal that would be acceptable to people in Ukraine, harder to reach. How do you see it?
I think that there was a tactical error when they simply ruled out NATO and they simply ruled out American troops, but not a huge one. Again, you know, Trump and his team, even before they took office, signaled an approach which could lead to a stable peace, which suits American interests and are by and large okay for Ukraine, which is Ukraine has to concede some territory, albeit de facto, not de jure. And Ukraine may have to accept no NATO for 20 years or more.
Okay.
But then Russia has to accept European troops in Ukraine to deter future Russian aggression and also arming Ukraine to the teeth. If that was implemented rigorously, that could stop this war. But I don't think Putin wants to stop this war because, again, he wants political control of Ukraine, and he thinks he can sweet talk the Trump administration.
And he might have reason to think that, no?
Well, I'm not going to say. I think it's better to watch what we do.
Okay.
And again, today was a real good day for U.S. diplomacy for the Trump team. Let's see if that continues in Moscow.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.